Hey everyone, it is Havo High here, bringing another video on Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. And finally, Battlefield has arrived on Global. It's called Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash. I'm not going to call that, I'm going to call it Battlefield. It's a lot easier. And this is going to be a full guide in basically how to beat all the stages. This is going to be team building, give you, that's a stage by stage guide on here. And this is going to be really focusing on version 1 and version 2. When version 3 comes out, version 4, that's what it's currently at on JP. I'm going to continue to do guides for that. So hopefully this guide will give you a complete understanding and help you beat all the stages and of course get all the rewards. So with that, if you are new to my channel, like, subscribe, comment below. Let's get to it. So let's start off with what is Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash, i.e. Battlefield. You're going to basically choose your best. Not your best, I guess you have to be smart about it. You're going to be building teams, and you're going to be using at max 100 URs. The funny thing is about 100 is if you're building teams of 7, that's what you're going to be doing, building teams of 7. You can only build 14 teams and use 98 units, but I think they just like the round number of 100. And like I mentioned before, you're going to build a team of 7, and you only can use this team one time. So it's one and done. And you have to be strategic about it. So your best units you're going to kind of save for the harder stages, and the weaker units you're going to be using to beat the earlier stages. So the team of 7 that you're going to be building, you're not going to use a friend, you're actually going to use a sub leader. So you're going to have a main leader and this sub leader, and try to build the best team around those two units. Typically it's going to be a particular type advantage. Categories could work, but I'm just going to leave it using the guide. Is going to be focused on type advantage teams, so mono teams. Now what you're going to be doing is you're going to be fighting enemies very similar to the style of Extreme Z Awakening. It's just a single target, and you're going to be trying to beat him, and then you're going to go up a ladder and beat multiple enemies. So it's really fun. I actually enjoy Battlefield. I wish it came out on Global a lot sooner. You'll be able to grind really for a lot of different things and a lot of different rewards. So, and the top right there, you'll see that it's the Battlefield gems there. So I guess they're going to call it class gems or something of that nature. So ultimate class gems. But all right, let's get to it. We're going to have a better perspective of what I mean by a ladder system and the stages. So basically, this is a quick snapshot of what you're going to be, who you're going to be fighting. And you have level 1, level 2, and level 3, and this is version 1. Like I mentioned before, this will change over time, but this should be the first version that comes out on Global. Now, you're going to start off with Captain Ginyu there, Physical Ginyu. That's actually very funny because we don't even have this unit, so I'm hoping that we do get LR Ginyu as reward, and they change his passive, or buff him up, or do something. Hopefully they don't use the old Captain Ginyu, because he's very dated, and really he needs a buff. Or we're gonna get Metal Cooler right away. That'll be a surprise. So I hope we get LR Ginyu, because he's been MIA on Global for a very long time. So and then after that you're gonna be fighting the giant ape, great ape Vegeta. And that's going to be level 1, and then when you go into level 2, it's going to be in Bojack, and then Tech Android 13. Strength Broly is going to be the boss. Then you have the SR version of Goku Black. Don't worry about that, he's actually difficult. Then you have Vegeta Blue, and then Goku Blue. And that's going to be completing level 3 on version 1. So this should be the first group of Battlefield that we're going to go through, and then we're going to be introduced with version 2. Version 2, they're just in a sense going to add into Masu, which is difficult, but definitely a enemy you don't want to kind of mess with. He heals, and it's a pain. So we'll talk about them. We'll talk about them when I do the team building. So when I'm doing the team building, I'm actually focusing on version 2. So if you can build the teams to beat version 2, you can beat version 1 as well. So with that, let's get started with building the teams and understanding how and what you should be doing. So on stage 1, on the Captain Ginyu here, you might be surprised. I'm actually asking you to use, in a sense, the best free-to-play team in the game. because the first stage, Captain Ginyu here, he is not very difficult. So you don't want to use the best units that you have. Like I mentioned before, you can only use the team one time. And if you win, you can't use it later on. If you lose, you can't use it later on. So this team here, you just want to use a simple, easy team to beat Captain Ginyu. And I'd say if you use LR Ginyu Goku and the Ginyu Force, you should be able to beat him no problem, using Extreme Z Gohan as the secondary leader there. So if you did not grind for LR Ginyu Goku, and you should, but if you didn't do it and you're like, oh, I still want to do Ultimate Clash, I still want to do Battlefield, you can use a strength team. Now I'm showing you guys extreme strength. If you use this team against Ginyu, you will just wipe the floor with them. It would be very easy, but I'm just in a sense give you the example of what your teams can possibly look like from here on out. So if you have a 120 lead, get a 120 lead. If you have the LR, you're going to use them as a secondary, and then you're going to use everyone else besides that as the rest of the units there. Like I said, this team is really powerful. I would like you to save this if you can, but or just run a different strength team. But anyway, if you don't have the Neo God or the LR, you're going to be using for example, here is Omega Shenron as the God lead, the 70% lead, or you can buy a 70% lead from the Baba shop and build something around that. You don't want to use anything under 70% as leaders. So when I'm saying 70% is HP attack and defense, 70%, you don't want to use anybody below that. So of course you can use a secondary support that's hit there. You can put him in somewhere else, and if you have like a tanking unit, you can use a tanking unit there. Not on this stage, but down the road you're going to definitely use a tanking unit here. But you should be able to wipe the floor with Captain Ginyu with extreme strength here. But I do recommend you use the free-to-play. Don't waste that extreme strength. You might need it for later. Who knows? So let's go ahead and move on to the first stage boss, and that is the Giant Ape Vegeta. Now this is actually, I want you to use just a regular tech team, and I'm hoping that you have LR God tanks, and you're going to build in this case here, a super, almost a free-to-play team. There's a lot of free-to-play units on here, but you want to, generally speaking, don't want to use your best tech units. One of the reasons why is tech, or AGL, is actually the last boss in Battlefield in Super Saiyan Blue Goku, so you want to have your best tech units waiting when you get to that stage. So try to build something like this. The AGL Vegeta really isn't that difficult, and well, not as difficult as the different stages, so this team should work out. You should do its job. And if you don't have some of these units, of course, like I said, you can substitute. Look for defensive units, because sometimes these units do hit really hard, and you just kind of this as a healer, so it's kind of nice. So if you can't use items on Battlefield. That's something I did not mention. You can't use items, so you just want to make sure you have a great team, and this team should be able to beat the AGL version of Grade 8 Vegeta. I'm just rambling here. What the heck am I doing? So anyway, let's go ahead and move on, and let's move on to stage 2, and that is in Bojack. In Bojack, I recommend you guys use a solid extreme physical. The reason why I'm asking you guys to use extreme physical, you should have a better super physical team. Now if you don't, just change it up, use the weaker of the two, but typically extreme physical is going to be weaker. You can use a team something like this. There is no, at this point in time in global, an extreme physical LR Cell has not come out yet, so, and Trunks is a super type, so you're going to use a 70% lead here versus a LR that's a 90%, like I showed you with the extreme strength. So hopefully you have physical cooler, the Neo God for extreme physical, and then you're going to use the rest of those units there. Now you do have some leaders here that are 70% leads in the physical Broly, and then also the Vegeta that's the Saiyan Saga there. He's only +2 to key and 70% across the board, but like I said, you don't want to use anybody below 70%. And if you have the Extreme Z Awakened Frieza, he's 70% there as well. So support unit, you can use that, or you can use these units here. You should be able to beat Bojack fairly easily. He's a little bit more difficult, surprising to a lot of people. What you do want to watch out is Tech Android 13. He hits really hard, so you want to have some tanking units here. I recommend Extreme Int here. You have some really strong tankers on this team. LR Bojack can be very helpful. Frieza. I also put in the SSR or SR, right? SSR and awakens into SSR. The Android 16. So the Android 16 mitigates 50% on damage here, and he's actually a great unit on this here because, like I said, Android 13 hits really hard. So I recommend this type of team here. Very defensive, but with some great offense as well. And then Buhan, of course, he heals, and you can't use items, so using Buhan there is really beneficial. So that team should work out fairly easy to beat the Tech, but don't sit on him. Like I said, he could hit you really hard, and it might be game over. So the next stage is the boss. The nice thing about this stage here, this is going to be the only strength enemy that you're going to be fighting. So you can use your best AGL. I'm just recommending Super AGL here. Look at this team, right? If you have these units, you should be able to beat this strength Broly, no problem. You're actually using two 120 leads, which is fantastic. You could be using Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and Transformation Goku, both 120, both rock and roll in there. If you don't have Transformation Goku, you can use the LR Mighty Mass there with the 100% lead, and then you have, you know, Mr. Counter himself and Super Vegito, EZA Super Saiyan 3. You know, so this team is really great. And once again, if you don't have some of these units, substitute with somebody who can tank fairly well, and you should be okay. So somebody with at least a percentage up in defense. And so that boss isn't really too hard. If you get here, if you needed to use two teams, you're building a Super AGL and an Extreme AGL, you can use both of them here if you're having trouble, because you don't have to find another strength later on. So you don't have to save any units. Now, moving on to stage 3, you're going to be typically starting fighting with the Goku Black. Here's where you want to bring the big guns in Super Int here. Don't sit on this SSR version of Goku Black, and you want to bring the best team here. This team will have no problem taking out the Goku Black, but you do want to be careful, and if you don't have some of these OP units, once again, make sure that's at least 70% leader that you're using as a secondary, and if you're not using a Neo God like in Gogeta there, you know, try to build as strong as a team as you can. You might even use a category. You can use Realm of Gods and use mostly Int units there as well, even though it could drop to 50% buff there. But if you're using a lot of Realm of Gods units, it should kind of make up the difference. So when you're building this team, you do want to be careful. So, but make sure it's the best Super Int you can use, and you should be fine. So moving on to the next one, you're using going up against Super Physical in Vegeta Blue, and Vegeta Blue is you're going to be using your best Super Strength. Like I mentioned before, if you didn't use your Extreme Strength, you can build an Extreme Strength team, and you can use both. You can use Extreme Strength, and then you beat up him with a Super Strength, and you should be fine. But if you have this team, you should be able to rock and roll it, no problem. So you have some really great units here. You have a great tank. You have Ultimate Gohan buffing up everybody 50% on defense. So this team should have no problem beating Vegeta Blue. And moving on to the next, remember this is version 2, so in version 1 this Inzamasu will not be there, so you don't have to bring a Super Physical, or if you want to bring a Super Physical, you can use that up against Bojack if you had some trouble there. This team is really just crazy OP, but this team is almost sometimes necessary because Inzamasu heals and he's a pain, and you want to bring some units here that, in a sense here, that can counter that can kill him a lot faster. So you have Super Vegeta, Vegeta Blue, do those counters there. You also have LR Gogeta, hits like a freaking truck, and he can also buff 2 units on this team at 170% attack, and that's God tanks, Neo God tanks there, and Seal tanks there. So pretty solid this team. And if you're using LR Great Saiyan Man, he also buffs the ki along with some defense. So really nice team. You should be able to beat Inzamasu with something similar, or if you're running this team, really no problem. Finally, the final boss is Super Saiyan Blue Goku. He's gonna be you're gonna be using either Extreme Tech or Super Tech. You might have to use both teams depending on if you have a good team or not. So this team should do very well. You're using, again, two 120 leads on this, and when you're using two 120 leads, it makes it a lot easier. So I recommend using Extreme Tech if you have these units there. You have a good tanker, you have a healer, right? If you do have the TUR Goku Black and Zamasu, you can use the TUR as well. I didn't put them on here, but yeah, definitely want to use Extreme Int first. If you don't beat Goku, then you can bring your Super Tech. But if you have this team, you should be able to beat him, no problem. I actually even put LR Friku down here on the bottom there. So, but anyway, those two teams can beat the last stage, no problem. So if you can beat this last stage, you've completed Battlefield. Get all those rewards, get all those gems, get all those stones, and definitely worth it and really fun. Now, this is basically a summary of what you're going to need to bring. So you're going to be doing 9 main teams. Hopefully just bring LR Ginyu Goku and the Ginyu Force team. Then you're going to bring Tech. If not, you're using Strength. That's what the secondary there is for. If not, bring the Strength team. Then you have a regular Tech team, hopefully free to play, or some weaker Tech units to beat that stage there. Then you go Extreme Physical, Extreme Int, Super AGL, Super Int, Super Strength, Super Physical, Extreme Tech, and then you have 5 backup units in Extreme AGL, Int, Extreme Strength, Physical, and Super Tech. So 98 total units, 14 teams, and if you have the best of the best, you should be able to do this no problem. If you're lacking, you might find it more difficult, and I'll see if I can help you as much as I can. So that's version 2. Now version 3, kind of a sneak peek, it's going to look something like this. Alright, the only difference is they did change the type advantages. I think the only type advantage they didn't change is Inzamasu. I'm just trying to remember version 3. I think they had 2 versions of version 3. I'm not 100% sure. I may have missed like it coming back again, but this is what I remember from version 3. And then the current version is right now they brought in future Rage Trunks, and that's going to be another stage there. So this is the current stage on JP, I believe version 4, and as you can see, the type advantages are all different again. So yeah, with that, hopefully you guys got some insight on what this is all about. I know this video was a little bit long, but hopefully, just like I said, have a better understanding and be more prepared for when Battlefield comes out on global. And with that, like, subscribe, comment below, keep on sharing my videos. Thank you guys for all the support, and keep on Dokkaning. We'll catch you next time.